Hello, everyone. Sheldon for the Graveyard Shift. Horror with Sheldon and Mike here. I just wanted to let you know what we've got for you for the next couple of weeks and why we did what we did. So, both Mike and I have a lot of stuff going on in our personal lives that, at the moment, it needs a lot of attention, and we immediately thought that maybe we should put the podcast on hold for a couple of weeks until we get a handle on things because we don't want to do things half-assed. Well, we already kind of do things half-assed, so I guess it would be more like quarter-assed. But damn it, you guys deserve an entire-assed effort, so we decided not to record a new episode for a little while. But we did want to have something for you guys to listen to, so we came up with this. This episode and next week's episode will actually be a Patreon preview. You regular listeners to the show know that we have a Patreon feed that some of you graciously use to send us money each month to help with the production costs. And as a reward, we do Patreon exclusive bonus content that only our paying members get access to. So I think you've probably figured out where this is going. For this week's and next week's episode, we are going to use a couple of those episodes so that you can all get a preview of what we do for our Patreon members. These episodes are a little different from our regular feed. We don't just do like the good and the bad, what we liked and didn't like about movies. Sometimes we go through an entire movie synopsis from start to finish. You get every single detail about it. And sometimes it's not concentrating on a single movie at all. For instance, this episode, our first Patreon preview episode, is actually a top 10 list. Now, this came about when one of our listeners emailed us and asked what our favorite horror movie was. And that's a tough question. Like, it's hard to narrow it down. If I really thought about it, I could probably pick one. But we decided to break up the horror genre into all the subgenres. Not all of them. We stopped at 10. You could go on for a long time, but we decided to just use 10 because horror is one of the most diverse genres out there. I mean, there's so many things. Like, you can have supernatural horror, science fiction horror, just drama, action, all kinds of stuff. So we came up with, I guess, what would be at least the top 10 most common subgenres, and we each picked our favorite movie from each of those. So we've each got 10. We give a little breakdown of each one. But like I said, it's something different than we do for a regular feed, and we just wanted to have something to make sure you guys are still entertained while we take a little break and get things situated. And we're going to do the same thing next week with a different Patreon episode. At the beginning of that episode, I'll tell you what that one's all about. And once again, something just done in a way that's completely different than what we do for the regular show. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to be back in 2 weeks with the regular show. Hopefully everything will be contained. I'm pretty sure we'll have everything taken care of by that time. But we really do hope you guys enjoy it. We do appreciate your patience and hope this doesn't sour you from the show. We do apologize, but I think you're going to enjoy it. So let us know what you think. We always give our contact info, how to follow us at the end of the episodes, and we do the same thing for Patreon. So let us know what you think. Like, maybe if people really like this, we could incorporate this into the regular feed and change it up every once in a while. Or maybe you guys absolutely hate it and you just want us to keep doing our movies and breaking it down to the good and bad. Let us know what you think, and without further ado, here comes our Patreon preview episode number 1, and enjoy. Hello, horrorheads, and welcome to the Graveyard Shift Patreon exclusive bonus content. If you are listening to this, then that means we owe you big time, because you were generous enough to bestow gifts of money on us to keep our regular episodes coming, and we are very grateful. I am your host, Sheldon, and of course, as always, right next to me, not literally, but in spirit, is my co-host,
I'm
Mike.
not dead yet.
We'll see if you piss me off. So very happy to be doing this, Mike. We're actually going to get some Patreon bonus content up for our Patreon subscribers. This has been a long time coming. We were kind of stuck trying to come up with an idea for some good bonus content. The only thing we'd come up with so far was to do some extended coverage of some of the movies we've already covered, and those are coming. But this actually was interesting because this one came up as a result of a question we were emailed from a fan of the show who wanted to know what our favorite movie was.
Now that we've got her money,
Mike,
she can get her answer.
well, we did give answers. Mike, you wasted no time giving yours. You knew right off the bat what your
I got so much
movie
I can
was.
give some of it away for free. You gotta get them hooked.
And for me, I even had to ask some of my extreme horror fan friends just to make sure I wasn't just being like a pompous asshole when it came to this, because I literally could not think of it. I read the question, I was like, well, my favorite horror movie is shit, I don't know. Like, there's too many, and they're all in different categories. So, and I did pick one. If you listen to episode 4 when we responded to his question, I did pick one. I couldn't say as my absolute favorite. I just picked The Exorcist because it had the most impact on me when I first watched it. But I can't say it's my favorite in total. So this sparked a conversation between me and Mike about different subgenres of horror. If we were going to break it up, what would we get? And Mike, we got a total of 10 subgenres, I believe.
Yeah, about that. Yep.
Okay, we could have actually went with much more, but we got the 10 essentials, I believe.
You keep bringing down into the subgenres. It would eventually be the point like movies featuring children singing.
Yeah, movies that had more than 5 blood puddles.
with canine or child killers.
Yes. So we could have broken it down even more, but we decided on 10. That should do it. And a lot of these movies, even though they fit the categories, the subgenres we picked, the lines are kind of blurred. They could fit in multiple categories. So we got some interesting picks, and some people may disagree. They may think that it doesn't necessarily fit the categories we picked, but we'll see. So just let me bring up my list. Of course, now that we're actually recording, I realize I am woefully unprepared. I have my list on my phone, and of course my phone keeps shutting down on me. So keeps locking up. I should just turn off the lock.
It didn't
timer.
ask to be here.
Yes. So I don't think we need to give an explanation, like a description of each subgenre. I think just from the name of the subgenre, like that explains what it is. Because we could be here all night just explaining what each one means.
We can give like a small indication, because we don't want to cheap out on these people. They gave their money, we give them our time.
That's true. You guys paid good money, and your hard-earned money to listen to us two buffoons ramble on. So money well spent. So yeah, we'll give you your money's worth. Don't worry. So Mike, do you want to read out the 10 subgenres?
Without further ado, let's get shifty in here. I always need a title. Okay, so the categories are supernatural. This explains, well, pretty much itself. It's horrifying elements that just defy the laws of nature, of science, of reality, of God, and just come from beyond the pale, out of your imagination, out of terrifying, dark, demonic places. And then...
Yes, as supernatural, we're talking about paranormal things, demons, ghosts, haunted houses, possessions, all things like that. I mean... You can pretty much figure it out. There's so many movies that could fit into that category, but okay.
We got slashers. Things that go bump in the night and just kill your ass dead. This can kind of transfer into other categories, such as supernatural, because many slashers are indestructible monsters, and others are just anybody like the boy next door, who always seems so nice. Mm-hmm. And next.
And talking about, blurring the lines of categories.
We have splatter and gore. This is movies that just, in no matter what category they are, they deliver massive amounts of intense physical injury, and they do not turn the camera away or give any cheap cuts. When someone gets killed, you fucking know they are DEAD, dead.
Yeah. A lot of these movies go more for the spectacle and the shock value more so than the complex story. But some of them have decent stories as well, so, it's all good.
And then, well, somehow, despite describing supernatural, we also have the monster category. This is just, like, no ghosts, no anything else, just something that, well, I guess this is just a copy of the supernatural, I guess, but...
In a way, I mean, it can involve supernatural. There's, like, there are vampires. Vampires could be considered monsters. Werewolves could be considered monsters. It could involve the giant monster category. Godzilla is definitely would fit the monster category.
Right, he wouldn't be a demon, so okay.
So yeah, it could be. It could be supernatural.
And then next is natural. Just an animal of some kind that, like, just an animal that doesn't really respect the laws of humans are on top. As far as it's concerned, you're on the bottom of the food chain, and it is about to show you why.
Mm-hmm. And for me, this is just me. I think I could also include in a natural category something like a natural disaster. I mean, there's some movies out there that center around natural disaster that really do have aspects of horror.
Final Destination. Because that is literally natural things happening that conspire to kill you. It's not like a force or an entity that we can witness. It is just a disaster is following you, looking to fucking kill you. So it could fit in that category too.
Yeah.
Action.
Next.
Just like a horror. It's a horror monster where people are fucking fighting back. This is not just a monster that's slaughtering a bunch of people that are just a bunch of pussies hiding in cabins and shit. This is a monster taking off people who realize it's there right away and are friggin' ready to take it out. And most of them usually fail.
This was probably could have been my hardest one to find my favorite in, because there's a lot of good ones. Like, there's so many horror movies that have a strong action element as well. So This was a tough pick, but I think I got a good one.
And then taking things on a lighter note, comedy. Because anybody who's really a fan of horror knows that comedy and horror are inextricably linked. There is a brevity to watching somebody get woefully dispatched.
Yeah, there's a reason why most horror fans have a dark sense of humor. And so there's no surprise there's so many movies that are made that gears towards that dark sense of humor.
Yep. And then following up, zombie horror. We've already covered the supernatural, but these things are just so prominent and such... They deserve a category of their own, because it's not just like, oh, a specific monster is getting its thing. Zombie horrors also throw in a psychological aspect, where the biggest threats and the dangers aren't the things outside shuffling around with decaying flesh, falling out teeth and glassed over eyes. It's the person who will open the door looking for their dog. It is the person who panics and decides to kill you so that they get enough food. It is the person who just can't keep their mouth shut as they go through a conniption fit, drawing those things outside, coming to them, smashing at the door. It is man. It is the biggest threat in a world of the dead. So, zombie horrors.
And the words, when it comes to zombies as well, I mean, the term can be very broad in itself. I mean, are you talking about, like you said, like mostly what you described are the undead shuffling type of things? Are they more of, infected humans, like a viral type of thing? Is it somebody going more old school? Is it somebody that's under like sort of a voodoo curse?
Haitian hypnosis or something.
Yeah, so that's a pretty broad one. So I think that, even though each particular zombie movie could fit into a specific category, we figured that there are enough zombie movies, and they're so they're so broad, they're so different in many ways that
they
earns its own
span
category.
so many other genres while standing in their own way, in their own light, that they are their own category to us. And next is psychological. This is just, it borders on thrillers, which are kind of like a horror movie where the monster is man. There are no demons, there are no supernatural elements for the most part, although there are other movies with psychological aspects in them. I think like my judgment for these are just like, what makes a man decide to just start hunting other people?
Yeah, the psychological horror movies, the way I would describe it, I guess, is something that's heavily involved in madness and paranoia. Probably the most real. It feels the most real, other than like the natural category that we made, and it's often linked with the thriller genre. And they're built mostly around psychological tension. So anything that involves that fit the bill for psychological.
And finally, rounding it out at the end is science fiction. This is just great because it can take things beyond our very planet to find things from beyond our atmosphere that wish us harm.
Yeah, and also could involve advanced technology that turns the tables on us, goes horribly wrong. This one was also very hard. I think, like I mentioned earlier, that it was hard for me to find my pick for the action horror category. Science fiction horror was probably a tie for for the hardest for me to decide, because there's so like we said, like so many of these genres can bleed into each other. So yeah, this was a tough one for me, and like I said, we could have easily, based on what we talked about, we could have easily broken it down and further than this. We could have doubled the amount of subgenres.
Well, what's your favorite psychological science fiction horror movie? What's your favorite action comedy horror movie?
What's your favorite natural monster slasher zombie movie? And yes, we could probably find one.
I bet you there's an Italian movie that covers that.
I guess it would be a good way to say, like, what's your favorite horror movie? Find one that fits all 10 subgenres.
Oh shit, that's another category we could have done. Foreign movies. Oh my gosh. The list would just go on and on forever, but...
Foreign movies, holiday horror movies, teen horror movies. Like, we could come up with so many.
Yeah.
We're going to stick to 10.
So.
Screw it. Maybe, hey, who knows? Maybe if this one... if we like the way this one turns out, maybe we'll do a feature one where we'll say, our favorite picks from even more.
Hey, how about you, the listener, give us 10 categories that we may have missed, or 5. And if someone else gives us 5, then we got 10. So, throw some other categories at us.
Yeah, how about you guys do some of the work for once, the lousy freeloaders? Oh, wait, no, this is for Patreon. These guys are paying. Never mind. Sorry. Disregard that freeloader comment.
Sheldon's going off the rails.
Too many psychological horror movies.
Okay, so now that we're about a good 15 minutes in, let's begin with our first category, supernatural horror. Sheldon, what popped up to you as a prominent supernatural movie?
Well, I think my pick for the in episode 5, I said my pick for the movie that had the most impact on me, and it definitely fits the supernatural genre. That is The Exorcist. I mean, could it get any more supernatural than being possessed by a demon? It is just good. It holds up today. Like, watching it today, it's still, of course, I don't have the same reaction I did when I think I was probably 8 years old the first time I saw The Exorcist.
You see the big piss on the floor, and then like the pea soup, and then the head turning. It's like, shit.
I think what got me the most about this movie was that this is a little girl that's at home, like what should be your safe place. And she didn't do anything, it's not like Friday the 13th where kids go camping in a place where they were specifically told not to go. Nobody did anything stupid. She is just home, did nothing wrong, and what happens? She gets taken over by a demon.
Yeah, it's a force that you can't even attack because you're hurting the little girl instead.
Yeah. And I could go on and on about this, but this is definitely one I think that's going to come up in a full length episode later on. But so that's
Have you
my
seen
pick,
the show The Exorcist?
So Mike,
I loved it.
I did, yeah. I haven't. I've only seen a few episodes, and what I saw, I liked. I'm not even sure
It
if
is.
it's still going.
I'm told it will be back for a second season. It was just 10 episodes.
I can't watch any more TV. I don't know when I would fit. Like, it's not that I don't even watch a lot of TV, but I hear people say all the time, "Oh, you should watch this show. You'd love it. I know you love the show." And it's like, yeah, that's great. If all of a sudden, someone invents a 27-hour day, maybe I'll be able to fit a few more shows in.
Well, maybe if these Patreon donations get enough, then you can get like a maid to handle some of the chores, and then you can get more leisure time. Great use of your funds, everybody. Yeah. My supernatural pick is, well, Dracula, the 1958 Hammer film. There are so many Dracula films which are good. Like, there's the one with Peter Langella. I think it was just called Dracula. And what was that one from 1973? Mm-hmm. Frank Langella as Dracula was a pretty darn good one. I mean, like, when he says, like, when a guy holds him off with a crucifix and he says sacrilege, and he jumps out a friggin' window and comes out as a wolf, and then at the end of the movie he gets hoisted up on a ship, it's pretty darn good. But no, Dracula 1958, the definitive Hammer horror film with Christopher Lee as a classy, handsome, decent looking guy, and then when you get to see the monster he truly is, it's not like an overuse of fangs or like CGI or none of that shit. He is just covered in blood and revealing with how powerful he is. It is intense music. Mm-hmm. It sells you more on the music and the atmosphere than with physical gore, and it's just class all the way.
Yeah, and I think when we first were in talks about doing the Graveyard Shift, making it into an official podcast, I think this might have been one of the first movies that came up that we said, we've got to cover. So that one's going to be coming, folks. Whenever the next time that we have an episode and nobody's made a suggestion for us, I think that one's going to be coming.
Hey, I'm down for that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Love it. Okay, moving right along. Slasher horror.
Okay, what about you?
So, well, actually, for slasher horror, I have two picks, but it's not because of a cop-out. I'm going to tell you why. My picks were the original Halloween 1 and 2. I picked both because, as far as I'm concerned, they're just part 1 and part 2 of the same movie. It's the same story. Part 2 literally picks up the moment part 1 ended, and the Michael Myers story could really have ended there because, it ends with him being stabbed in both eyes, shot, and then set on fire. He's deader than he's ever been in any of the other sequels, which I think got progressively worse.
I don't know. I think if Rasputin can walk away from something like that, then you need to be a little more thorough with Michael Myers.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, that one was, I think, definitive. I mean, it takes place on Halloween. I don't think I've gone through a Halloween, and for me, Halloween is not one day. Halloween is like a 2-week period. Sometimes it seems like a month-long period. I just consider a lot of cases October is just
Unless
Halloween
you're in the Insane
season.
Clown Posse, then Halloween is every day.
And, yeah, so I don't think I've made it through a Halloween probably within the past 13 years where I haven't watched these movies. And it's just perfect. It's the quintessential slasher movie for me.
I'd have to say Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Freddy Krueger with Robert Englund. It is a good
pick.
Indestructible guy with a personality. That is what makes a real slasher to me. Like Michael Myers, yeah, he's like a big lumbering lummox, but really, what difference is he from Jason? Aside from location.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Freddy, I mean, he's got, like, he was a villain before he died. He's not like, someone that was corrupted and can be redeemed. No, he is just a bad fucking dude. And then when he was dead, he became a badder dude. And he loves his work. I gotta admire someone that just really throws themselves into their job. And Freddy just takes a delight with every teen he sends to a bloody patch in their bed. Like, I mean, like anybody who can turn Johnny Depp into a frappuccino, then there you go.
Yeah. That's good, and it could have fit into the supernatural category too. If you picked it for supernatural, it would have been perfectly fine.
Okay, so
And I think it could have probably fit into our next category
would've.
as well. So
splatter and gore.
And yes, and while it's certainly not the most important when it comes aspect when it comes to horror, I do like my gore. So
Sure.
shall I go first?
Why break the pattern?
Okay, for splatter, yeah, for splatter and gore, this one was an easy one for me. The original Evil Dead from 1981. The story itself is nothing special. It was original for its time. I'm not aware of anything exactly like this, where a group of college kids go into a cabin in the woods, accidentally release demons that were capable of possessing humans and going on a murderous rampage. My introduction to Bruce Campbell, so
And we will always be
I
grateful
owe that one
for
big
that.
time. And even though the effects, if you're looking at them, they look like a homemade job. They look pretty cheap, and they were. The movie wasn't big budget. It was a labor of love for the people involved. I think even a couple of the actors worked for free. But the gore, as cheaply done as it was effective. I'm a sucker for stop motion animation, and it had some good scenes of that. Yeah, it's a splatterfest, and I absolutely love it.
It truly was a good movie. My movie, however, is The Wolfman. And I could go for the Hammer
Which
film
one?
was good, but the modern one, the Universal one, was
Wait, there was a
Yeah.
Hammer Wolfman?
it was Hammer or
What?
like
Was it used Universal?
with
The
Oliver
Wolfman was
Reed.
Universal.
I believe.
Fuck.
No,
Lon Chaney
Oliver
Jr.
Reed was the Wolfman in the movie I'm talking about, which was a Hammer one. Yeah, you can. Yeah, Curse
Am
of
I
the
an idiot?
Werewolf.
Oh, I like how you answered that really quickly when I said, "Am I an idiot?"
Oh no,
Curse of the Werewolf. Okay, so not the Wolfman, Curse of the Werewolf. Because Universal actually copyrighted the word Wolfman.
okay.
No one but that's why everyone else is a werewolf, but Universal was a Wolfman.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the Wolfman. Even though the Curse of the Werewolf, which starred Oliver Reed, which was a good movie. This movie's kind of like it's got a guy that looks a lot like Oliver Reed, but it's also got what was his name? Anthony Hopkins in it as a
Oh, you're talking about Benicio del Toro.
yeah.
The Wolfman remake from it was fairly recent,
Yeah. Yeah.
2012.
I freaking loved
maybe?
it.
I
mean, like when he goes through his transformation in the insane asylum, while the guy is just standing in front of him, telling everybody, "Hey, this is clearly a man undergoing a psychotic episode. If we can break this delusion, then we can bring him back to the world of reality and normalcy. And why are you all panicking?" And then he turns around, sees this guy completely dog-faced, and he's like, "Ah!" And I mean, like when he tears everybody in that room apart and takes a doctor and just rips him to pieces and throws somebody outside of the window, and they get impaled on a wrought iron fence. That is just my happy place for blood and gore, because it had another scene at the beginning where he tears apart a gypsy camp and just shreds people up like fucking nothing.
I'm gonna have okay. You've convinced me to give this movie a rewatch because I did see it, and I don't know if I was distracted by anything else, but I didn't pay. It didn't have the same effect on me as it did on you. So, but you're making it sound much better, so I'm gonna have to give it a watch
it's
again.
mine for splatter and gore, because it's not gratuitous, it's not an abundant amount, but it's gore and splatter, punctuating it perfectly with everything else going on.
Okay.
So tell
Awesome.
us, what is your favorite monster movie?
Oh, for Monster, this one was a little tough. I was stuck between it, and I immediately I realized that I immediately went for the old Universal horrors. I like thought about Dracula right off the bat. I considered Godzilla, and I think, well, Godzilla certainly falls into the monster category. I'm not sure if it really falls into horror. You know, it could, I guess. But my pick, when I came down to it, if I got to pick one movie monster that had the most effect on me, it had to be Universal's 1931 version of Frankenstein. I loved Frankenstein as a kid. It was my first favorite movie monster. Just the thought of that, you know, a person built from the leftovers and bits and pieces of a bunch of other people, brought to life by science. It was the first movie. It was the first monster that I dressed as for Halloween. Totally done by myself. I think I was like 10 years old and showed up at the my elementary school's Halloween dance in platform shoes, tinfoil bolts stuck to my neck.
We need pictures of that.
Paint it green. I'll take a look. Well, I have to ask my mom to see if there's any existing pictures of that.
Why did we have to live in a world? Why did we have to be kids in a world without instant photographs everywhere?
I thank myself every day that I grew up in a time before anyone could just plop out a camera really quickly and snap a picture of the stupid shit I was doing. So, so yeah, that was definitely my pick. It's I have several copies of this on DVDs, Blu-rays. I think every time I buy a Monster Collection, it always works its way in there. And if you haven't seen it, if you're a fan of classic monster movies, then you probably already have. But if you haven't, it's good. And how popular is the line, It's alive.
It's alive!
It's alive! I mean, that's been parodied so much in other movies, TV shows, whatever you want. You've heard that line. Some things that have
that
nothing to do
fellow
with
at Radio
horror.
Shack said I was mad.
But yeah, it took me a little while. I had to chew a few over, but yeah, definitely Frankenstein 1931 was my
I
pick.
like it, but it took a while for me. I was thinking it was like an hour, wasn't it, or like 40 minutes before we actually get to see the experiment begin, and then the monster's in confinement for a while. So, I mean, I like the idea. I have a fan in it you might be interested in. It's called Spawn of Frankenstein. It is a full-length movie, but it is the first two movies, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, cut together to the running length of one movie. And it's taken out...
Oh, cool.
I don't know, like, this can be to its detriment or not, but I like it was worth the attempt. It is taking all the parts where Frankenstein shows kindness out of the movie. So, narratively, from the beginning, he is the abomination
but see,
that...
I don't know if I'd like that, because that was one of the things I like about the monster, because, you know, he was created and misunderstood. He was mistreated by more mistreated by his creator's assistant. And this movie just started so many of the horror tropes, like the mad scientist, the laboratory, the weird assistant, the misunderstood monster.
It did. I like...
Yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna.
To me, it just took too long to get there. I mean, I tried watching it with my nephew, and I'm just thinking, like, no, Frankenstein's a great movie. And only when I was watching it with him was I like 30 minutes into the movie, and I'm like, oh fuck, we haven't even seen the experiment yet. Why is everybody talking? Like, show me the lightning bolt. Show me the lab. Show me shit. It's just so they love to talk in those old movies. Like, they figured we can record sound voice. Well, instead of showing special effects, let's just talk. And they spend so much time talking about, oh, that Victor, he spent so much time up on the hill. And it's like, instead of just saying that and moving on, they talked so friggin' much. But Spawn of Frankenstein, it's like, it kind of cuts through a lot of that and just gets to it in about 20 minutes. The lab is already in action. It's pretty darn good. And I always wondered, like, how did Igor drops the brain. So, like, Frankenstein should have been evil or something because he grabbed the abnormal brain. But, like...
No, I think you're getting some...
Well, he grabbed the good brain, dropped it, and then he, like, went to grab the abnormal brain, the brain of a killer. So, like, why would Frankenstein be good then? Like if he got the good brain, and then Frankenstein would be the misunderstood good man, that makes sense. But if he got the brain of a killer, he should have been evil from the start. Yeah, to me that was just a plot. That was just a point that always was a little odd. Right.
So what's your pick?
Enough rambling. My monster pick, The Mummy, not the Universal, the one from 1959, Hammer, because Hammer is the fucking awesome. And this one has Christopher Lee as the Mummy.
Again, Christopher Lee plays a good. Yeah, he plays a good monster. Yeah, that one definitely was on my short list.
This movie is fantastic. Just like from the beginning when the mummy's coughing fall, like it shows the mummy being interred, I believe. Like, did they mention, or wasn't it in the flashback or something, where it shows about how Karis was captured and sentenced to be mummified?
I think so. I have to watch it again because this is one that I haven't watched in quite a while, but I believe so.
But it really begins to me when this man hires a bunch of people to move the mummy's coffin, but it falls off into a bog, and then Mehmet Bey reads the scroll of life. And this is when the movie really begins, when you see bubbles rising from the mud, and then Christopher Lee comes out in rags, and we get to see this monster ready to do his master's bidding as the man holds the scroll and compels him. And we see him do some amazing, terrifying kills. Like when he breaks into a guy's room, and it's just, for the first 5 minutes, it's just this guy is just screaming because he sees the mummy outside, and the mummy's just breaking his way in, and nobody's helping him. It is just a great monster movie.
That's good. Yeah, like I said, I was close to picking that one. Okay, so on to natural horror.
Sure thing.
So, for mine, this one was probably the easiest pick for me. When it comes to natural horror, nothing beats the original Jaws. I mean, that, just like the tagline says, you'll be afraid to go into the water, because I don't know if I've been, even though like I love being in the water, I love swimming, I love the ocean, I love lakes, whatever. You know, if I get a chance to be in the water, I'm usually in it. But that doesn't mean that the back of my mind, a recess of somewhere, doesn't have that little spark, little twinge of fear every now and then that a huge shark is going to just swim by and grab me and pull me under and just
involuntary weight loss.
Yep. And done so well. This movie is so effective. It's a slow burn. And I mean, it is something that this is not when it comes to the shark itself, it's not something that's an exaggeration. It's a great white shark. These exist in nature, probably maybe not as determined as this one is.
Especially at Jaws 4 when he just decides to relocate from fucking Maine to San Francisco or something.
Yeah. I don't talk about Jaws 4.
It's like this shark's got fucking GPS. And he is determined.
And it's turbocharged apparently too, because
oh man.
Yeah, so but that's just some good gore effects, some good kills, great story. It's simple, and some great lines. Like it's and just that's it. I don't know what else to say about it. Like
it's a great case of letting a failed budget and improper effects work for a movie.
Yeah. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it introduced the world to Steven Spielberg.
I don't know what the hell he was doing before then, but, you know, it's...
Well, I'm sure he was probably working in the industry.
Certainly was a feather in his cap to make people get attention to him.
Yeah. It's what, if he, I don't know if it was his directorial debut, but if it wasn't, then it was definitely what made him a household name, for sure.
Yep.
And iconic, like, if nothing else, if not for any of the visuals, which I'm sure a few of them have become iconic, is there anyone on the planet that doesn't know the theme song? If you start going, dun Does anybody not know what that is? And I've said this line before. If you don't know, you're obviously an asshole.
You have a large moral failing.
Yeah. Where the hell have you been since 1975? Because
Have you been not watching good movies? Shame on you.
yeah, exactly. And it is overall just not just a good horror movie, not just a good shark movie. It's just a good movie in general. Everybody should see this movie.
Yep.
So, Mike, how
My
about your
movie
pick?
is not from a whole movie, but from a piece of an anthology movie called The Cat from Hell from the Tales from the Dark Side. This is about a man who is hired to kill. A hitman has been hired to kill this man's family cat because no matter how many times they tried to move the fucking thing, it keeps coming back. So it's time to get some professional help. And this cat just fucking takes out the hitman in a way that is, disturbing would be a fucking understatement because this guy spends several of his shots trying to take out the cat, constantly missing, and then the cat finally decides to fight back by jumping into his mouth and crawling down into his stomach, choking him with its own body. And then the old man comes in, discovers the hitman sitting in the chair or something, thinking, oh, well, he did his job. Well, come on and get your money. And then, the guy's chest bursts open like fucking Alien. And there's the cat I'm back, bitches!
That was good. That Tales from the Dark Side was, it wasn't great. It had its moments, but that was definitely one of the moments. I remember that stuck out very clearly.
And Blondie as a witch. So it had stuff going for it.
You know what was almost my pick for natural horror? When you're recording your horror movie podcast and a fly does a kamikaze move and slams directly into your eyeball and almost blinds you.
The Fly.
Jesus. Just as we're about to begin recording this bonus episode, that's what we were maybe 10 seconds in. And Mike didn't know what the hell happened to me. I just all of a sudden made a yelp and was swearing. And we had to stop recording for about 2 minutes while I picked all the fly shards out of my eye.
You only buzz once. Okay, so
Asshole fly. Okay, so on to action.
Tell us about
horror.
action.
Now, like I said earlier, this was one of the toughest ones for me to pick because it blurs the lines again. But for my pick was the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic Predator. I mean, and a lot of people, I know that there's going to be some people to say, is that horror? That's not horror. Are you kidding me? It's not horror. This alien that's, basically an advanced super monster with alien hunting technology comes to Earth to hunt humans to collect their skulls for trophies. And you see, there is some pretty damn gory scenes in this movie.
The one where Carl Weathers gets his hand cut off with the gun,
and then impaled. You actually see somebody get their, someone get killed, and then their spine and with their skull with their spine still attached, ripped out. There's Jesse Ventura gets a hole blown straight through him.
Well, how else do you kill the body?
If that doesn't count as horror, then fuck you. It does. You don't have any arguments.
Yeah, this isn't just I'm gonna put a spike through you.
If you think that doesn't count as horror,
this
then
isn't
you're
I'm
wrong.
just gonna put a spike through you while you're sleeping in your cabin. This is action kills. Yeah. And as for my action movie, same one. This the Predator movie.
Yay!
It is just a fucking great action movie. This thing announces its intentions pretty right off the bat. These people aren't scared or wondering oh, what's happening. They're actively hunting this friggin' thing, after it comes after them. And only like near the end, like once there's only a few of them left, do they start getting really, really scared. Like, you know what? Maybe we can't handle this fucking thing. We're an elite fighting troop and we can handle some Contras in the friggin' jungle, but you know what? This one guy's really mopping up the jungle with our asses. Literally. Like, I can see someone's ass dangling from the tree, and their head is in another one.
And these are, and I mean, and this is the thing too, it's sport. You know, he's doing it as sport. He's not just going after some, like, defenseless natives or villagers or anything like that. He's going after some hardcore, like, you know, the baddest of the badass Marines.
Yeah, that's what establishes
You know,
the Predator as a unique action villain, because he doesn't just, like, kill defenseless people. Like, he only goes after people that are holding weapons, and he only goes after people that are, like, you know, violent warriors or threats. He sees the girl in the jungle and he just leaves her alone because she doesn't like come after him. She's just like, I clearly don't. I'm not a match for you. I'm not an honorable kill.
I mean, she's tiny. She's unarmed. I think her hands were tied at that point. So it's it's definitely like it. I know a lot of people are going to argue, but it doesn't matter. This is horror all the way. A good action horror, and I'm so glad that. This is the first time yet. We're more than halfway through our list, and this is the first time we've
a villain with honor. He's just like the Predator is just such an awesome, unique thing. We had to give him his due.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now we're getting into something different for sure. Comedy horror. And for my pick, this one was a very easy one for me. There's a lot on the list that are, you know, would definitely make an honorable mention, but I had to go with Shaun of the Dead.
You got some red on you.
Oh yes, this is for me and my wife when October comes and we start, you know, doing our horror movie watch. This one's on the list. Some of them are interchangeable. This one, every year without miss, we have to watch Shaun of the Dead, and it is just as funny every time, and has some great gore scenes, has some a couple of jump scares, but just an all good zombie movie, and funny. And I love my British comedy, so this one fits the bill for me. There was no doubt in my mind when it came to comedy.
I don't see the point in owning a car in London. It's like, well, maybe when there's a zombie outbreak and you need to get the fuck out, maybe then you see the point of a car.
And that guy, he's such an asshole through the movie. And just when you think, you know, he seems like he realizes that he's being a twat, and just as they refer to him in the movie, and just when you think he realizes what a douchebag he's about to apologize, he actually has the words, "I'm sorry" out, and what happens? Zombies crash through the window, pull him out, rip his head, limbs, and guts out.
Fitting into a Pratt.
Yeah. Too little, too late. Okay, it's for you, for comedy. What do you got?
Okay, for me, well, Zombieland. It was hilarious. Like the fact that the caption, like the little words interact with the people in the movie is hilarious. The intro at the beginning with that song, what was it? No, it wasn't Hell's Bells. Sandman?
No, it's
From Whom the Bell Tolls. And we see like
Metallica.
some people putting out a fire and then like getting attacked by zombies, and it is just fantastic. It is gory. It is funny. Bill Murray deciding to pull the stupidest, most inappropriate practical joke.
When there's a zombie apocalypse, you know what's a good idea? Get high, then dress as a zombie to try to scare someone.
Who is an established zombie survivor. And,
yeah.
Oh
my god. You know what else is fun? During hunting season, dressing as a deer and running through the forest.
When they shoot you and realize it's not a deer, the look on their face is gonna be priceless.
Oh my god. Sometimes, honestly, we've been just like, me and my wife have been sitting and watching TV, and all of a sudden, this has happened on a couple occasions. We're watching something, could be something serious, all of a sudden she'll just like kind of chuckle, and I'm like, what? And she'll be like, oh, nothing, I was just thinking about Bill Murray, Zombieland. Just out of blue. And then I'll start to laugh. Yeah, that was high on my list. That was almost my pick. Very close. Oh God. Okay, so we're done with comedy. Now, actually, this is kind of cool because it's related to our comedy picks, but we're into zombie horror. And this one, even though there's a lot of good ones that I could have picked from, I own so many zombie movies. But when it comes to my favorite, there was no doubt for me, it was the original Dawn of the Dead from 1978. I think that was George Romero at his peak. It had some good gory scenes. The zombies themselves, not very gory. They're basically like, recently dead, just pale, greenish hued people. But it was effective. I mean, it's just friggin' epic. People trapped in a mall, like they barricade themselves in a mall. They're living in a mall trying to ride out the zombie apocalypse. Tom Savini was involved, so you know it's always going to be good when he's got his hands in it. And yeah, there's a reason why this is one of the essential zombie movies. Just if you're a zombie fan, I'm sure you've seen it. If you are not, if you haven't seen it, go do it.
It's a pile of zombie movies which I need to get caught up on. I only remember seeing the original Night of the Living Dead from the 60s, which it had such like it was like such a fitting ending that like the black guy survives only to get shot by a bunch of people that are just like, oh, there's one, kill it. And
bunch of hillbillies.
And it's not even like it's not like he even said like, oh, there's like a zombie killer. He's just like, oh, well, there we got one of them. Oh my gosh.
Yep. And and even though it took place, it was filmed 10 years later, I think. It's a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead. And for me, for the George Romero, not only my favorite horror movie, but the zombie movie, I should say, but the best of the Romero Dead series. And I could watch this one again and again. Never gets old. Absolutely love it. So for zombie, how about you?
Funny turnaround is that my zombie movie was Shaun of the Dead.
Ah!
It is like, as far as zombie movies go, like there's lots of like good comedy horror movies, but Zombieland was the tops. But as for zombies themselves, there's it's really hard to like Resident Evil because I tried watching it again with somebody. And I was just like, come on, 40 fucking minutes to the laser scene. Oh my god, it's another 20 minutes to the train scene. Oh my god, there's only just those two scenes in the movie. The rest is just talking. Oh. So
if Resident Evil wasn't a video game first and he just came out with the Resident Evil movie, I probably would have liked it a little more. But because I was such a fan of the original Resident Evil, I bought it when it first came out. I had it on PC. Absolutely loved it. So, of course, when they were making a Resident Evil movie, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be great. They got so much source material to work with. It's good. All they need to do is make an exact movie copy of the game. And what did they do?
They gave us Michelle Rodriguez as a character I don't remember from any of the movies. Any of the games.
Yeah, and
I did like Resident Evil 2, though. That was a good movie. I watched that movie like 3 times in one night because there was 2 director's commentaries. And I had the DVD, and I'm just like, oh, there's one director's commentary. Might as well watch it again. Then I watch it again this 3rd time. I'm just like, oh, this one has commentary with the actors.
They did in Resident Evil 2 they tried a little better to connect it with the games. Because there was some big elements from Resident Evil 2, the game, it put into Resident Evil 2, the movie, but still, it was a fail for me. I'm not a fan of the Resident Evil movies, but anyway, Shaun of the Dead was your favorite for zombies?
Yeah, it was just a zombie movie that I actually loved from beginning to end, and I didn't feel like there was any, dead parts in between. Pun most definitely intended. Come on, it's me. Puns are never unintended.
I'm sure a funny guy.
So tell me.
Yeah, so I agree. That I can see Shaun of the Dead being someone's favorite zombie flick
now,
for sure.
Tell me, what tortures your mind? What gets psychological?
Oh, for my psychological pick, This one's going to sound very familiar to you, Mike. The
Tell me
Shining.
more.
Never heard of it, right? And for our Patreon sponsors that are listening to this episode, if you haven't, I don't know why you'd be listening to a Patreon episode when you're not caught up on the. Actually, we're going to have this one probably on Patreon before episode 5 gets released, where we covered The Shining. So you might actually be listening to this one before you listen to you actually hear our coverage
You'll have
of
the
The Shining.
small window of opportunity to do so.
So I'll give you a quick breakdown. What's not to love? A man moves his family, wife and kid, to a hotel for the winter, where he comes down with a bad case of cabin fever, which is, made even worse because the hotel is haunted and ghosts want him to kill his family. It's quite possible that he's being reincarnated and ends up as a caretaker of this hotel in life after life, and goes on a axe-wielding rampage through the hotel.
There's a possibility that this man is reincarnated, always to come back to kill a family and die in this hotel.
And like most psychological horror movies, left with a lot of open-endedness. You're not sure what exactly has happened. You have like some idea. You might be able to figure things out. If you could ask a dozen people, and you could have a dozen people come up with could come up with a dozen different answers about what exactly was going on. And it's effective. It has its flaws for sure, and we will be discussing that in our coverage in episode 5. But you can't argue that it is a great entry into psychological horror.
Very notable entry where the greatest enemy is the mind.
Yeah. So yeah, that's mine.
Well, in that same vein, I'm just going to drop the logical out of the name and just go with Psycho.
Oh, nice.
The Anthony Perkins.
Great pick.
Is it Anthony Perkins? Yeah,
yep.
That original Hitchcock classic. It is just great from the beginning, where you're following this woman and you think the movie's about her, and then about 10, 15 minutes later you realize, oh, this movie's just going to go on without her.
Yep. This is definitely a great pick, Mike. Definitely groundbreaking. It was a lot of firsts in the horror field.
And the marketing campaign for this actually, pretty much was no spoilers. They actually said, don't tell people how it ends.
Yep.
Which was I think it was a unique thing for movies at the time, wasn't it? Like, they never explicitly said, don't ruin the ending for people, so spoilers.
Yeah. First movie to show a toilet.
Yep.
Look it up. That is true.
Thank you, fucking Hays Code, you sons of bitches. Oh, we just have to pretend that people don't excrete waste.
Well, it's like that book, nobody poops but you. No, wait, everybody poops. Sorry, I'm thinking.
You're
about
concentrated.
The Family Guy
You're
skit, so.
going to hell, and that's concentrated evil coming out the back of you.
Yeah, that's one. That's a good pick. And for a moment, my stomach sank a little bit, because if you said, my pick for psychological horror
The
is
Vince Vaughn
Psycho,
classic.
and if you added the 1998 remake, I would have been on the next plane to Ottawa to kick
That
your
scene
ass.
when Vince Vaughn is masturbating between the walls, that just lets me know that this isn't my daddy's Psycho anymore.
Hey, a shot-by-shot remake of the
With
original
Norman
classic,
masturbating with Norman masturbating through a keyhole, which I don't think they had that in the Hitchcock one. But then again, maybe there's a director's cut I didn't keep up on.
And shot-by-shot remake, but let's take out all the interesting and competent acting and just make it bland and uninteresting.
Let's take away all the nuance, the atmosphere, the presence, and the grace, and just copy it.
Yeah. Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates. Jesus Christ. What
For the longest time, I didn't watch American Psycho because I thought that was the one. And then someone kept talking about, Jason Bateman, and I'm just like, well, you mean Norman Bates? And they're like, no. And so, it just kept sounding very similar. And then I ended up seeing the movie, and it is fucking great. That would be a good psychological, well, more of a thriller, less than a horror. But this one, well, fuck, it's about the same thing anyway.
It has moments of horror for sure. It could have been, if you picked that one, I could have I think I could have been down with it. Have you been watching Bates Motel?
No, I haven't. I've downloaded the episodes, but I haven't seen it. Have you?
I have. Well, I haven't. Me and my wife watched the entire first season. I think we were well into the second season, but then we kind of got involved in other things. But it's one that I'm definitely going to go back and get caught up on. I'm going to tell you a true story about a coworker. Okay? Just out of the blue, heard this coworker talking to another coworker and said that they were talking about Bates Motel. Oh, she said, it's so good, such a good show. You really got to watch it. And I said, oh, you're a fan of Bates Motel? Oh, yeah, it's so good. Oh, okay. So you must be a fan of Psycho as well. Oh, I've never seen it. What's it about?
Oh my gosh.
I literally just looked at her for a second and walked away.
No, there's not even. No, I can't even.
Yeah.
So let's cap this off. Science fiction. What terrors from beyond the realms of natural law do we know? Do we revere?
Okay, this one in action, like I said earlier, was the hardest ones for me to pick. Wrestled with this one quite a bit, and I finally decided to go with The Thing from 1982.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, I think so. It fits in the science fiction. I mean, it deals with aliens, and it's fucking terrifying to think that, it's got aliens that, not your typical one just running around and killing people. This one does something much more sinister and creepy. It actually absorbs people, can become their likeness, mutate itself into some of the most horrifying, fucked up creatures you've ever seen.
I think that one would have been a real psychological horror, because it truly is a horror, like no like no natural things. It is a psychological beast.
This one could have fit into so much. Like, it could have fit into the splatter, monster, the action, psychological, and science fiction. Like, it's got like 6 categories that it could easily would have nailed any of them. And let's not forget Kurt Russell. He was just such a badass in this movie.
Oh yeah. Still is a badass. Have you seen Guardians 2?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I know.
He's great.
Don't know why I haven't been keeping up on my movies this blockbuster
At
season
least
at all.
Marvel. At least Marvel. Anything else can fall by the wayside. Yeah. Like, I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet. I probably should.
Oh, Wonder Woman's great. I saw that one. The DC universe like finally looks like it might be getting its shit together. But yeah, the thing like was great. It's got some great kills. It's gore. It's some kills that just come out of nowhere. You least expect it. You're left wondering. At the end, you still don't know. There's 2 people left at the end. You don't know if one of them's if they're both just a human or one of them's an alien. And everybody dies. You don't see the last 2 people die, but you don't really see a way out for them, and they've pretty much accepted their fate at the end. They're just going to sit there in the cold and drink until they freeze to death. So yeah, you got to see it. And I was confused a few years ago because I saw commercials for The Thing. This movie just called The Thing obviously had some connection with 1982. Thought it was a remake. Was not interested in seeing it. Discovered, no, it's not a remake. Yeah. It's a prequel. Just for some reason, could have not put something in the title that could have, differentiated.
Yeah, like Rise of the Thing, which really sounds like a porno.
Anything that would have told you that it's not a remake. And I'm glad I found it out because I took a chance on it, and it's actually, while it doesn't measure up to the Thing, it's actually a decent prequel. So and connects with the with the Thing perfectly. So I would, if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it.
Oh yeah, I've got to.
The Thing had great practical effects. I can't say enough. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. We definitely gotta cover it on the show. And I think we, at the beginnings when we were first putting a premise together, we may have came up with something that we're going to special with the thing that we're going to do. And yeah, so that's my pick. And Mike, your final pick.
Well, I
what
was
do you
just
got for me,
wondering
buddy?
if we ever do like a either like a games thing. Have you ever played the game The Thing?
I did on the PS2.
How was it?
Not bad. It has some flaws, some big flaws, but overall I enjoyed it. Maybe I'm hoping I didn't have blinders on, that maybe I enjoyed it as much as I did because of the movie. But yeah, it's definitely something we're going to
Well,
have
we
to
can
cover.
review that as an extra component then at some point, because I really should get.
Yeah.
I just love the idea of that, like a psychological horror game.
Mm-hmm.
But my
and,
science fiction, I love the old movies, and War of the Worlds is my
Nice.
Yes. Science fiction, because the aliens show up. A bunch of farmers show up, like waving a white flag. Hey, we come in peace. Hello, friend. And these things immediately let you know, friend. The fuck is that? Friend, it must mean.
like, hey.
I think it means kill me.
It's like right away they're like, oh, we come in peace. We hey, welcome to Earth and everything. And the aliens are just like, looks like we got some kind of bug infestation. Better take care of this.
Our new home is filled with these friggin' roaches. What the hell?
No, that's a good one. Yeah, I love this movie, and yeah, it definitely. I think it's got enough elements of horror to fit the fit the category.
One thing I loved was when they take off in the plane to escape the war zone, which is more of a slaughtering field, because the army doesn't stand as much of a chance as they thought they did. And when they take off in the plane, and it shows like the camera attached to the plane, and it's just flying around bushes, and then when it takes a turn over a escape, and then you see two ships that look up and see it and shoot at it, you're like, ah! It is great. And when the alien comes looking for them, and you get to see what they look like outside of the ship, and it is just a great movie from start to end.
Yeah, and no Tom Cruise to be seen.
And the cool part is that at the end, God rolls up his sleeves and says, I guess I got to get involved with these fuckers. And that's when it's like, what other movies do you have where God himself like intervenes right off the bat? It's like, if it was truly just the virus,
Right off the bat, yeah, waited for a few million people to die first.
well,
but...
I guess he had some. I guess he figured he might as well, do a little spring cleaning first.
Oh, well, you call it God, I call it nature, but whatever the case is, yeah, that's a good pick.
I think the writer, or like the screenplay writer, didn't want it to be like, oh, because they attacked the church, that's when they all start dying at the same time. But no, they're like, thanks to the Christian whitewashing, they were just like, okay, you know what? I know the book says that viruses killed them, but in this one it's God, because Jesus is awesome. And I'm like, well, really? I mean, like, the book kind of like stated like it was like our bacteria that did it, and they're just like, because God put the bacteria there, and we're like,
Yeah, no, everything comes back to that. So yeah, Mike, gotta say, man, good
you.
list. I enjoyed it.
I had a blast too,
Yeah,
and I feel like I got to know you a little bit better as a friend.
That's good. That's always good. Since we've never actually like officially met, I don't know if any of our listeners actually know that. we only know each other through podcast form. That's it.
We are just voices to each other.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fix that at some point, I'm pretty sure. But well, that's our list for our top 10 horror movie picks with our with our 10 subgenres. I've got a feeling that for a later Patreon bonus, we're going to have to explore some other maybe sub-genres, we should call them. But yeah, this was fun. This is going to be our very first Patreon bonus content, so we hope you guys enjoy it. once again, we cannot express how thankful we are for what you've done. You guys are really making this show worthwhile, not just because of the money donation, of course, but just because you have shown us how that you really like to show that you are really truly fans. We appreciate it so much, and be on the lookout for more Patreon exclusive content coming your way. We've got some good ones in the works. And take a look at, we're actually going to set some goals that for the Patreon, some goals for Patreon amounts. And we might have some good stuff coming your way involving goals as well. So be on the lookout for all kinds of new stuff. And Mike, you got anything to add?
Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for listening to the show. Just thank you for being you.
There you go. So, do you agree with our list? Do you think that we were off the mark with some of our picks? Do you have what you think of some better suggestions? Don't hesitate to let us know, because we want to hear from you. And you know how to do it. You can always email us. The information's in the show notes. If you're a fan of the show and you're a Patreon donor, I don't think you have any... You already know how to contact us, but just in case, if you want to email us, you can get us at graveyardshiftpod@gmail.com. We're getting some great emails from fans.
Oh boy, are we ever.
And you can reach out to us on Twitter at GYS_horrorpod. You can find us on Facebook at the Graveyard Shift Pod. You can just search that in Facebook, and we will be at the top of the list. And you know how to get us on Patreon, of course. This is probably one of my favorites. I'm so glad that we got asked this question, because this is the reason we have this exclusive content for you. So be on the lookout for more content coming up. Until then, I'm Sheldon. And once again, we'll see you next time on the Patreon exclusive edition of The Graveyard Shift. Good night.
Good night.
Unless you're watching this listening to this in the daytime, which good night makes no sense.
It's
but it's
nighttime
nighttime
somewhere.
Here, so
maybe right
so
behind you.
And if you just want to add something, if you think that our movies, our picks for the subgenres don't actually fit the categories, fuck you. Who do you think you are? You think you're better than us?
Yeah.
Go to hell.
Because you contributed $1, you can berate us. We're worth more than that. That's at least a $10 reward.
You can actually. We're we're not free, but we're cheap.
Insulting us is a $10 reward.
Yeah, you can. You're a Patreon. You listen to this. You can call us whatever you want. In fact, we encourage it. We encourage it. We'll be your whipping boys. We don't care. You gave us money.
Yeah,
you own us.
You bought us. So you do what you want.
Yeah.
We are your dirty boys.
Okay. Let's get out of here. Okay. Hope you enjoy, guys. And I'm out.
I'll try to trim that down to a somewhat honorable outtake.